Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm really excited about our interview today. We're actually sitting down with Jon Zucker at Gigamon. He's the Senior Technical Community Manager, and he's been a community manager for 6+ years. And so he's been doing this for a while. I actually had the pleasure to talk with him a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the future of community and the power of community. And I want to kind of frame Jon up a little bit. I was running a meeting with a whole bunch of CMOs, and I asked the CMOs, there's a lot of changes happening in the digital space right now. And I asked them, what is the future of marketing? And most of them agreed that it was actually community. And so dovetailing off of that, I was able to meet Jon, and we had a fantastic conversation. So Jon, first of all, thanks for coming back on so that we can continue our discussion. But we really wanted to have a discussion and talk a little bit about your experience and your expertise in using community to drive leads, using community to drive pre-sales events. And so anyway, thanks for coming on, Jon.
Yeah, my pleasure, Paul. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it'd be great to just hop back in. I think, when you look at the evolution of community management, most brands get into community management or they build a community for support deflection. So we're all the way over here on the customer journey side of things. We're all the way over here where, brands want to provide a support base for their current customers. But where you and I were chatting about, which is I think a very exciting place, is how can we utilize community for lead generation? How do we go all the way to the other side and create and build communities around that? So can you kind of give us a little bit about your strategy there and kind of the background and how you came to think that way? Because I think that's, relatively new.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Happy to talk about it. And I've been doing this for a while, and you're absolutely right that a lot of communities, especially for tech companies where I work, they are there and serve an important purpose to help users understand how to use products, how to fix things, overcome issues along the lines of support. So support is, and in my opinion, will always be an important use case for communities, especially in the tech arena. Now, because I sit in marketing, and actually before I did community management, my background was product marketing, product management, and I actually began my career in sales, right? Well, because I sit in marketing, there's a flurry of activity happening around me every day around lead generation, campaigns, how to entice a prospect to engage with our company during the sales cycle. Now, our community is an open public community, which means you don't have to have credentials to view the content on the community. So it's a website, right? And, inevitably, when someone is early on in the sales cycle, when they're doing discovery, even before they start talking to our organization, someone on the technical team, because our community is technical, someone on the technical team is going to get tapped on the shoulder to do due diligence. Hey, we're looking at Gigamon, we're looking at 3 or 4 different vendors, and can you, Mr. or Miss Technical Champion at our company, can you take a look at Gigamon and tell me what you think? And so those folks, maybe it's an engineer, maybe it's an architect at an organization, those folks are they'll go to our website to understand who we are, what we do, maybe look at some of our product information, but then they'll go to our community. And the reason why they're going to go to the community is because communities are very different. They are not just static websites. They are always changing. They give you a true reflection of what's happening with your product on a day-to-day basis.
Real time.
Correct. And the people that are contributing that content, it's not me, it's not our marketing department, it's our users. So it's a true real-time, unfiltered view of what's actually happening with the product from a user perspective in our case. And what that gives an organization that's considering us, what that gives them is it gives them a unique and accurate view of what's really happening with our products. Now, as someone doing technical due diligence, I can do some searching around and understand how our product works for my use case. I can see how other users are affecting or realizing their use case, and that's really valuable. So what I just described there is engagement, right? It's, we have a prospect who is engaging with our content through the community, right? And so how do I, as the community manager, bring that information back to our company to help assist in pipeline acceleration and lead generation?
Yeah, big question. This is one of the bigger questions, I think. If we could go back for a moment,
Mhm,
because your community is open,
mhm.
does that mean that any of these, technical roles can post inside of the community, or are they able to just consume content from current customers?
Good question. As a guest or non-authenticated user of our community, you can browse through all of our discussions
Hmm.
and public-facing knowledge articles. We do have premium content for members of our community, especially customers.
Hmm.
So this use case of a guest user or non-authenticated user is kind of what I was describing. However, as you probably know, during a sales cycle, as you get further into the sale or deeper into the pipeline, and you're starting to talk to a salesperson, let's say, um, most organizations are going to offer a proof of concept, right? POC. Try our stuff out. That's a good reason for that prospect then to join the community, to register for the community, get credentials, then they can start asking questions themselves if they have any, right? Um, so as a non-authenticated user, you can view all the public information. If you register for the community, now you can post into the community if you
Got it.
choose to do so.
Okay, so at some point in the sales pipeline, you give them the option to register. They can then go in and engage.
Correct.
But the other interesting thing that I was hearing you speak about was that the decision, it might not necessarily be the decision maker that's coming to engage with the community. So really your target isn't the DM, it's the technical advisor, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. The technical buyer.
The technical buyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's really interesting. I love how you've plotted that out, and you really know what that motion looks like for you and your sales motion and your brand.
So so these individuals are engaging with our content,
Hmm.
right? And in the case of the guest user, right, we don't know who they are. So there's a limited amount of engagement metrics that we or any organization can derive from something like Google Analytics, right? If that's an analytics engine that you're using, it's very popular. That's what we use. We use other ones as well. But for the community, for these guest users, I'm using Google Analytics. And from that, there's very valuable information. I can figure, I know where people are coming from. I know what content they're engaging with, and I know um, when they're logging in, right? So Google Analytics is a great tool for tracking that kind of engagement data. But the real value comes in the use case where you were just talking about if they choose to join the community,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Now, our community runs on top of Salesforce. And that's really powerful because when someone registers for our community, we're able to capture that information in Salesforce and associate that with other data we may already have about that individual's organization. So for example, when someone joins the community, I can tell if they're already a customer or not, right? If they are not a customer, then wow, we just captured a lead,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now we have a whole new kind of second level of engagement data that we can track for that new member. And this is the point where when we capture a new member of the community, I can now leverage that information into our existing lead generation and lead scoring and acceleration processes that we use now. So a lot of organizations, they'll capture a lead. Maybe they'll do a campaign, to an email campaign where the primary call to action is to download a white paper, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody downloads that white paper. Wow, we've captured that lead, and then that lead receives a score. So lead scoring
Mm-hmm.
is a very common use case. So in the case of the community, when somebody joins, they become a lead. If they're already in our database, maybe before they join the community, they had downloaded a few white papers or attended a webinar. So we already know who they are, and they've already been engaging with our content or come to our events. So each time they do that, they accrue a certain number of lead points or from a scoring perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they join the community, they're accruing additional lead points, right? Their score is increasing. And then of course, most companies, they have a lead, and then when it hits a certain level of points, it goes to a different level within their sales process, and maybe someone then would reach out and contact them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until it becomes an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
a sales opportunity. So in our case, the community is contributing to the lead score with two different things. One, which I just mentioned, is when somebody joins the community for the first time, they accrue a certain number of points, and that's great. But then if that person starts asking questions or answering questions or posting in a collaboration group, every time they do that, they accrue reputation points. This is something that our community backend tracks through Salesforce. Most communities have some form of calculating points based on engagement in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have set some criteria that if a member accrues a certain number of points at any point in time, their lead score goes up even more. And so now you can see how the community, joining the community and then engaging in the community, translates into lead scores or lead points. And then that, obviously is a direct impact into the acceleration of that lead into an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're doing now. And we've seen increasingly over the last year that the community is contributing to more and more opportunities. And I think that
Wow. That's awesome.
aligns nicely with what you heard from the CMOs that you spoke to.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, you talk about velocity of success, right? So your opportunities are going to close quicker.
Correct.
I would almost guarantee that those customers are going to retain longer because they're getting involved in the community at the beginning. You're giving them that tribe, you're giving them that support right from the
Mm-hmm.
get-go. And
Mm-hmm.
if they're contributing, if they're contributing posts, and if they're contributing content to the community and engaging inside of that, like, wow, you were just able to find an amazing customer that
Right.
truly believes in your product and probably isn't going to go anywhere, and it's going to be a massive advocate for your company and for your product.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, you find these people early on, and they're getting value from the community from the get-go. And, then the community continues to support them and serve them once they become a customer. Um, yeah, that gives us a lot of opportunities to leverage advocacy events and advocacy content from those customers,
Mm-hmm.
new customers.
Yeah, this is awesome. In terms of, did you implement this program? Is that what you've been working on for the last few years, is
Oh,
figuring this out?
this sort of sales.
Yes. How to plug in community into the upper
Yeah,
pipeline.
it's so interesting. Uh, As I mentioned, and you mentioned too, most people think of communities as support communities, and that was the really wasn't the case with us. In other words, the people, my colleagues, my management, they wanted from the get-go to leverage the community for the whole customer life cycle, right?
Hmm.
But very quickly we realized that support was the most common use case. And organizationally, and I don't think this is unusual for our organization, the rest of the organization, the sales team, the support team, clearly, um, they thought of the community as a support community as well, because that's what was happening.
Right.
And so, an important part of my job has been, selling this opportunity for pre-sales and pipeline acceleration to marketing, even to marketing, to sales, to the rest of the organization. Say, hey, look, um, we have a website that is not static, right? We have a website where we have prospects that are coming there every day to see what's going on. We have prospects that are joining the community, and I can track all their engagement. And I know who they are, I know where they work, I know what their title is, I know a lot of information about them. So, um, yeah, I mean, I've been kind of in putting on my evangelist hat over the last year, and continually reminding my colleagues and the rest of the organization that this isn't just a support portal.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's a place where anyone can come and understand what our products are. And so, it requires it requires, it has required for me, outreach, constant outreach to marketing, to sales, reaching out to salespeople saying, hey, look, guess what? In fact, I just did this yesterday. We had 5 people from a customer join the community on a single day, right? And so I reach out to the salesperson, say, hey, FYI, these 5 folks just joined the community. I suspect it's probably related to this deal that you just closed. And
Hmm.
he's like, yes, we're super excited. Replied back, yes, we're super excited about this. And they're onboarded and they're really eager to get going. So, you know, that's an important relationship to have for this use case, is with your sales team, because, right, I
Yeah,
mean,
for
they
sure.
have the word sales in their title. And so anything that you can provide to them that gives them insight into what's happening with one of their customers, and better yet, with an opportunity, the more they're going to understand and support, this particular use case.
Hmm. So I want to dive into that in the last few minutes that we
Mhm.
have here. A lot of we're seeing more and more community managers reporting to marketing,
Mhm.
and it's kind of interesting that the most, in our community of community managers, the biggest challenge has actually been metrics. What metrics do we show the executive team? What metrics prove that community is working?
Mhm.
And that's even before we get to pre-sales. So
Yeah.
I suspect that we're going to start to see more community managers reporting into marketing, and marketing is very, very metric driven. It's very funnel driven. And so can you speak a little bit to that experience? Obviously, if you can attribute a sale to have
Mm.
any kind of attribution to the
Mhm.
community,
Mhm.
that's a great thing. But is there any other advice you could give to those that might be reporting to? Because what's funny is, yes, the CMOs in this meeting that I had said community is the future, but it's really hard to put that into a predictable funnel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of creativity, and I know that there's a lot of community managers that I've talked to who are reporting to marketing right now and are struggling to figure out, how does this puzzle piece fit in so that marketing sees this
Yeah.
truly as a key, you know uh customer journey piece to the whole thing. And it sounds like you've got that you're well on your way to figuring that out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very important. And every I think the question that my colleagues should ask, if they haven't already, what they need to really understand is, how does marketing get measured, right? The marketing leadership, they've got to report up their metrics on a regular basis to executive staff and read out. And what are they being measured by? And so, no surprise, most marketing organizations, in my experience, are measured by leads that they generate. But the real and more important metric is when that lead turns into an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So ensuring that, for other community managers, ensuring that you can objectively measure your community's contribution to an opportunity is what you need to do from a marketing standpoint. Um, and so, as I mentioned, I now can report up objectively to my management that the community was a factor, or was a touch point in a sale, or sorry, in a lead. The community was a touch point that turned into an opportunity for, you know, $200,000, right? And so every week I can report up that, quarter to date, the community has influenced N number of opportunities for N
And number
dollars.
of dollars, right?
There's a number on that, right? And that, numbers are numbers, right? And that's been the biggest success that I've had over the last 6 months to a year, is being able
Mm-hmm.
to do just that, right? Now, the other, in some cases, even equally important number or metric, which is really hard to measure, is advocacy. Hey, and you mentioned this, right? You've got someone that you've touched early on in the sales cycle. They've used the community. They're getting value out of it. They then buy the product, and now they're a happy, satisfied customer, and they're continuing to contribute to the community. How do we turn that into an advocacy event? How can I leverage the community to ensure that we can get more references? That when we contact a customer, they would be willing to speak on a panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or write a blog for us. Those kinds of things are very, very valuable to marketing organizations as well. And so that's kind of like one of my next big focuses, is how can I harvest advocacy, customer advocacy events out of the community. And so, TBD, maybe we can do this in a few months, and I can
Let's
talk more
check
about
back
the
in.
successes
Yeah,
there.
let's
Yeah.
check back in. I think that's one of the frontiers of community management right now, is the amount of content that can be generated
Hmm.
inside of these discussion groups, like you just said, panel discussions, guest posts,
Right.
reviews that specifically mention the support inside that they receive inside the community. That's a new value proposition that I think
Perfect.
brands are starting to get. If you can get that more in the forefront, like, people forget about a blog. Let's go to the community where, like you said earlier, it's real time. Real conversations are happening. It's not, the brands that I respect the most are brands that just let conversation happen. They don't even
Yeah.
try to control. And sometimes you can find a thread where, it's obvious that users are frustrated about certain features.
Sure.
Just letting that be there shows that the brand is there to support, the product is there to, like, you're being heard, and allowing those conversations to happen. So I think there's so many cool things.
Absolutely.
Well, Jon, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been fantastic. I would love to do a follow-up. This is new, it's emerging, and a lot of people are working through this, in, when they report to marketing. So everything you shared today is spot on. I really appreciate it. It brings a lot of clarity. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, if you want to reach out to me, my handle is just John Z. So that's JUSTJONZ. And that's probably the best way, as well as LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Find me on
Sounds
LinkedIn.
good. I'll post a link so that when we post this on LinkedIn, people can find you there.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much. Let's do another follow up, and we'll talk soon, hopefully.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks,
Awesome.
Paul. Really
Thanks, John.
appreciate it.